Looking at Reece Mould, he's never been beaten. Arguably the biggest fight of his career. Where do you see him being most threatening to you on Saturday night?
Possibly early when he's fresh. He might want to come out and impress. Not been on that big occasion before. He wants people to remember who he is. So I'm expecting him to come out and try and make a name for himself. Obviously, especially early, till I've kind of put him in his box. But I can't switch off any point in the fight. But I think it's the time when I've got to be most cautious. It's going to be early.
And are you a bit hungrier to get that belt after obviously the loss in your last fight and it being 12 months since you've been in the ring?
I'm not. I wouldn't say more hungry. I mean, I can't wait to get back in there. I've always wanted to win the British title since I was 11 years old as an amateur, holding Nicky Booth and Jason Booth, and then watching Frochko win it. So I've always wanted to win it and tick that box on my way through to bigger and better things. So I've always been up for it. If you can say the British title, and when that's dangled, it does give you that little bit more motivation and that extra gear, you could say.
Thanks very much, Leigh. Best of luck.
Okay, if we go to Joe from SecondsOut next, please.
Hi Leigh, how's it going, mate?
Sam, mate, you're right.
Yeah, all good, thanks. Just one question from me. Obviously, with you being the more experienced seasoned fighter, the older fighter, why in this case do you think that the experience is going to get you over the line against a not hungrier, but a younger fighter?
At the end of the day, I think experience is key. You can want to win something as bad as you want, but if you've got experience in the bag, Brennan used to say to me, you can't buy it, you can't borrow it, and you can't pretend to have it. That's experience, and it's true. Like I've been there, I've been that young hungry fighter, and I got it wrong. I got it wrong in the weight, but I got it wrong on the night as well. And having that experience in different types of styles, different types of scenarios, and the rounds, especially and making the weight, not just experience in the ring, but making the weight time and time again, going the distance at the weight time and time again, going the distance at the weight with good kids in front of me trying to take my head off. You can't buy that experience. And for him, he's got all these things to answer on the night, as well as me on my best, punch him in the head. So I think, when I say experience, I don't just say I've been in these fights. I mean all these things surrounding as well. But hopefully he's had a good camp and it makes for a great fight, because I don't want to win a British title and come out and go bang. I'd be more satisfying if it was more harder in a great fight for the fans as well, and to look back on and say, I remember that fight that Leigh Wood was victorious in. It was a hard fight, and people remember it better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you, mate.
Okay, if we go to Ron Lewis from Boxing Scene next, please.
Hi, Leigh. I hope you're well. A couple of things. First of all, you mentioned Nicky Booth there. Obviously, tragically, he died recently. Was he someone you knew, and was that growing up? Because you'd have grown up sort of when you started amateur boxing through the days of the two Booths and Carl and that sort of thing. Were they sort of motivations to you?
So Nicky was more when I was around 11, 12 years old, and he was probably at his best, at his biggest and best as a name, and Jason as well at the same time. So I really looked up to him at that point, because he came to my awards evening. He had this British title, and I was like, wow, do you know what I mean? Just in awe of him. And after that, obviously Nicky's life kind of didn't go where it should have gone. He got into a bad crowd and he's doing things he shouldn't have been doing. And more then I went over to see Jason a lot more. I was sparring with Jason when I was 15, sparring when I was 17, 18, 19. And it really helped me develop, Jason did. And what a great guy he is as well. He's obviously done a lot in his career too. So it was probably more Jason that I'm closer to and I still speak to now. But Nicky was the first, because I heard his first and I seen him first. Jason wasn't there that night. He was the first one that kind of gave me that initial, wow, I want one of these kind of thing. And obviously seeing Carl do it as well.
Was that your club awards or your school awards or something?
Yeah, my club awards for Phoenix Amateur Boxing Club, and I think the year was 2011 or 12. It was my first show. I got I think young best up and coming fighter or young fighter of the year or something like that.
He brought, was it the Lonsdale belt he brought?
He brought the Lonsdale belt, yeah. And there's a photo on my social media knocking about. I had a no fear hat on, a massive shirt, probably my brother's. And Nicky looked like he had his brush top on as well. But yeah, it was a good night. And after that, I think I've seen him less than a handful of times, which is quite sad. But you know, Jason did help me a lot, guided me a lot, gave me a lot of good advice. We shared a lot of rounds because when I first started sparring with Jason, he never held back on me, and I was a 15-year-old kid, and I wasn't really developed. I was a late bloomer, so like in puberty and everything, you know, I didn't really get very strong till I was probably 17, 18, maybe even later 19. I would say. So he used to give me some good rounds when I was younger, and I think it really did help me develop and gave me a bit of toughness, kind of, you could say.
When obviously, you know, Nicky died recently, what were your sort of emotions then? Because I suppose in a way, you know, people who knew him, it wouldn't have been a huge shock, but at the same time, obviously things like that are a shock when you're still that young.
Yeah, it wasn't a shock, but it was still sad. It was still very saddening to see someone that was so brilliant in the ring and then got it wrong in his life outside of the ring. And it's happened with other fighters as well. It's happened with other Nottingham fighters as well over the years, and it has to serve as a lesson, because after boxing, sometimes whenever boxing's your whole life, and after boxing, when you've got nothing to fill that void, you know, it's an easy option to try and fill it with something that you shouldn't. It's because it's there, it's accessible, it takes you away from your reality. So I think like it needs to be a lesson to fighters coming through, and maybe to like these organizations have been set up now for like past boxers, and you know, they're setting up these clubs, and I think it's a great idea to help out the former champions or the former professional fighters that do miss it, and they can talk about it and be involved in something as well, and maybe involved in professional boxing doing something else.
Excellent. I mean, your last fight also, sorry, go on more straightforward things, against Jazza. Feels like it was about a couple of months ago, but it's actually a year ago now, wasn't it? And to have pushed him close, and now Jazza's obviously boxing for a world title. What does that give you? I suppose an added motivation, or does it give you a realization of what could be close for yourself 6 months, 12 months down the line?
Yeah, a bit of both. I'm kicking myself a bit. I didn't perform that night. I know I didn't perform that night, and I know why I didn't perform that night. But you can't take nothing away from him. He beat me. He was a better man on the night. He did a great job. He did what he had to do, and I had a lot of things to contend with that. The first time I boxed a southpaw on fight night, a good one as a pro, and not just a decent southpaw, but one that you don't really come across a lot, and aggressive. And he was on it. He was threw a lot of punches. He pressurized, and it's hard to get sparring for them kind of kids, as well as doing it on fight night when you've not seen it before. So I had a lot of things to contend to. But like you said, though, he's boxing for a world title now. So I look back, I lost on a split decision on a bad night. I know I can get it right next time we fight. Hopefully we fight again. And good luck to him as well. I hope he goes and wins it.
Excellent. Thanks, Leigh. Good luck Saturday night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. If you go to Ryan from Boxing Social next, please.
Hi, Leigh. Thanks for joining us, mate. Just a couple from me. First one, I just want to ask you about the changes under Ben Davison. I noticed you said in an interview you'd done yourself a week or so ago that you actually analysed your opponents, looked at video footage for the first time in your career. How beneficial has that been, and what other little changes has Ben sort of made around the place?
Yeah, made a lot of changes. Not so much changes, adjustments, I'd say. Adjustments and how I perceive boxing, how I look at it. It'd go back through my own fights as well and say, look, you landed these because of this. You got hit here because of this. These are your strengths, these are weaknesses. The first day I got to the gym, you said, right, what do you think are your strengths as a fighter? What do you think are your weaknesses? And I'll tell him and he'll say, right, I think you're wrong with this, you're right with this. And it's kind of a bit of a blow to hear at first, but then as he explains things and analyze things over the coming weeks, it all clicked together and everything makes sense. And I'm extremely confident in my ability and what I've got to do. I'm fighting that now for the first time. I've got a plan. I'm not just going out and thinking to myself, I'll get this done, I'm good enough. It's not good enough. You need a plan. And a lot of fighters over the years have not been tremendous, like sparkling talents skill-wise, but they've overachieved in their careers without being horrible. Like you've got Anthony Crowler and Scott Quigg, pretty basic fighters, but they haven't go into a fight with a game plan and they've achieved a lot.
I wanted to ask you about the British title, Leigh. It is a belt you've challenged for before. You got the opportunity to win it Saturday night. What would it mean to you to be able to take that back up the road and add it to your collection?
Yeah, I mean a lot. I mean, it's a title I've wanted to win since I was a kid. I never even dreamt of going to the Olympics or anything like that. I never wanted to really. It was more of just turn pro and pick that up on the way and fight for a world title. So that British title was a box I wanted to take since I was very young. And Saturday night, I'm gonna go grab it.
All right, Leigh, thank you. I'll pass you on to the other guys. Good luck.
Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Ryan. If you go to James next, please.
Hello, Leigh, mate. How you doing?
How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Just want to touch a little bit on, obviously, we mentioned already the British title. You've wanted that since a kid. It's a big fight because of that reason. Obviously, coming off the back of the loss, you said it hasn't made you hungrier, but does it make this fight bigger for you and for your career because of the loss? Can you take 2 losses in a row at this level?
No, you can't. It knocks you back. A loss knocks you back. If you look at the Jazza fight, obviously under the circumstances, I lost on a split decision. I had a bad night. I went in a tournament pretty much blind. I didn't know who was in there. You don't know who you're fighting until days before. So I kind of like that loss has not took me back as far as it would a normal loss in a normal setup. So yeah, I mean, 2 losses would be devastating. It'd be very hard to come back from. But I'm not looking on losing on Saturday night. I've done everything I need to do to win, and I'm confident in getting it done.
And just the last one from me, in terms of your opponent, Reece, he is coming in as the underdog, but he is also undefeated. How dangerous does that make him being the underdog? But also, how dangerous is it that he hasn't ever lost? He hasn't experienced a loss.
He hasn't lost. He's probably got that momentum and that confidence. And I took it before with Joyce. Joyce had the unbeaten run. He was an Olympian. He's been there, done it, got experience. And I just know, like, it's going to be hard. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy job, but I know for 100% I'm confident in getting it done. I'm going to get it done. You could say, yeah, he's unbeaten, but he's also untested. Like I said earlier with some of the other guys, it's experience. And, you know, you can't buy it, borrow it, or pretend to have it. And I've got it. So.
Absolutely. Leigh, best of luck, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, James. Go to Ames next, please.
Ames here. Pleasure to meet you, Leigh. How you doing?
Well, good, mate. You're right.
Yeah, I'm not too bad, not too bad. I was just wondering, and I wanted to follow up with a couple of questions from my colleagues here. Were there any other trainers who you sought out or sought you out before making the decision to go to Ben?
In my head, I thought of a number of trainers, but the thing is with boxing is you got to move to a different city. And it's expensive. And when you're making them decisions, you've got to be pretty confident in who you're moving to, that you're not just going to move to a different city and then 4 or 5 weeks down the line think, this ain't right. So I was fortunate enough with Ben to obviously have my friend there already. So I went down for a trial week. It didn't really cost me a lot of money. I stayed with my friend. And in that week, when I first got there, I thought, well, this is different. I was out of my comfort zone incredibly. But as I got to the end of the week, I just knew. I thought, when I left the gym Friday compared to when I got there on the Monday, I left knowing, like, this is where I need to be. This is what I've got to do. This is where I've got to be to win these next fights in my career.
Talking about the fight, there's been a lot of talk about power. You having power, Reece having power. Ben says your power has been improving. This could be like a bit of a firefight. Do you think it's set up that way to the fight will materialize that kind of way?
Possibly, yeah. But like I said, I've got the experience. You can't come out all guns blazing. You can't come out and lay all your cards on the table. I know I've got power. I've always known I've got power. Every coach who's ever took me on the pads has said I've got power. I used to spar with lightweights, Gary Sykes, and as the list goes on and on. Even for this camp, I've been sparring like light welterweights. So I've always I've had that in my locker, but it's about when to use it, setting it up. Surprise element is more important than coming out and letting your biggest arsenal of weapons go.
I know you're not really thinking about it, but I just want to flesh out something you mentioned to James. You have the 2 losses on the record, but what about a defeat if it came to it? Because I remember I watched an interview with Boxing Social. You said the first defeat for the British title really set you back. So where would the loss this time round, if it came to that, where would that leave you?
Hopefully it won't come to that. But the first time round, the reason it took so long to come back from was not mentally, it was more managerial. I was ready to fight straight away. I was like, I bounced back with the win. 2015, I beat Josh Wales straight away. I was getting carrots dangled in front of me from where I was at. So it took a long time to get a decent title. Again, obviously, even finally when I moved back to Coldwell, within 3 months I won the Commonwealth. So you can see the difference there. But yeah, a loss would be devastating and it'd be extremely hard to come back from. That's why I put so much into this camp, and mentally I just feel ready.
And you're living with Leo and Shabaz. They've obviously been anticipating your fight as much as you are. Does that give you a little bit more into added motivation as well, bringing that title back to that household, that hungry household, and showing you, I've done this, you guys can do this, and motivating them as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, in the house is Josh and Leigh McGregor and Josh Taylor. So, well, Josh is leading the way, and he looked good in his last fight on the Ben. Leigh McGregor was supposed to fight the week before me. Now it's going to be a little after. So, yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I'm going to go back there, take that British title back, and Leigh's going to bring the European back, and the gym we're at is going to be up there with one of the best stables in the country, if not the best stable in the country in the coming months.
Thank you very much, Leigh. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.